It's interesting, kind of following that into sounds like a pretty important step. You're talking about planning to what the future of the Air Force looks like, and that's super interesting. And it's interesting that I'm sure you probably have folks from all across the Air Force, different bases, different locations, et cetera, and transitioning, that and the lessons that you probably started, the organizational process that you started there, and transitioning that into our current environment. It would be interesting to hear, what worked. Is it, what are the things, that the tools that you put in place that were useful, and then what are the things that, when you kind of turn the wrench on it in the current COVID environment, from an organizational leadership perspective, what doesn't work and what did you have to improve?
I think what I've learned, and if you were going to distill what I try to do in different organizations down, I could oversimplify it a little and say two things. And the first one is to develop a shared purpose or a shared sense of purpose in the organization. And I think you do that by, communicating, by collaborating with people, and by interacting with people. So as opposed to just, writing a vision and handing it down and say, here we go, I found it works better to collaborate with the people in the unit and to try to drive some consensus on kind of who we are and what we do. The Air Force 2 years ago did some work on trying to reinvigorate its squadrons, and we can come back and talk about that, why we needed to do that. But one of the things that came out of that was they published what they called the value proposition of why are people in the Air Force. And as a wing commander, I'd get to spend time with all my young airmen when they came in and talk to all of them and then watch them grow a little bit. And we talk about you're in the Air Force, or you stay in the Air Force because you feel like you're a valued member of a high-performing team that does something important, is something to narrow it down to. And so how do you get a shared sense of purpose in your unit? As a squadron commander, our shared sense of purpose was we were an expeditionary fighter squadron that trains and fights as part of a joint team. And we worked through that, and you can hear the words in there. It meant that we knew we were going to deploy forward to do our mission, and we had to be able to pick up and go on short notice, but that we would never fight by ourselves. It would always fight as part of a team. And then as a group commander in pilot training, a different kind of mission, it was we're building the world's greatest professional military aviators. And that professional word was chosen in their own purpose, because in a profession you have a skill set and a code of ethics. The military part was on purpose because there are a lot of pilots in the world, but military pilots go places others don't and perform tasks others won't. And then we put under that day or night, rain or shine, peace or war. And those were all important too, that we were going to, build skills both in the day and night. We were in Mississippi where the weather was terrible and it was important to talk about rain or shine. We were going to keep doing it. And then the second Iraq war kicked off while I was there training pilots, which is not a great place to be when war kicks off. And I wasn't too happy about it, and neither were my pilots. And so we put that peace or war part in there on purpose to try to talk about, the fact that our vision extended there. As a wing commander at Bagram, it was a unique opportunity because of the way we transition forces. The soldiers that were there while I was there from the 101st were there for 15 months. The wing that I had at Bagram changed 5 times while I was there. I had maybe 8 or 10 people that were on 1-year tours, another 20 or 30 that were on 6-month tours, and the rest, 3,000 to 5,000, rotated out at 120 days or less. And so we had a continual rotation going. And so our kind of mantra there was start right, finish strong, because everybody was always getting there and learning what we were doing, or already halfway thinking about going home, and try to keep focused on what we were doing. And so, in all these places, it was to try to work to figure out what is the one thing that the nation depends on this organization to deliver, and then how can we come to some shared sense of purpose, and then how do we build trust between the people in the organization and their leaders. And people talk about trust. They say it's a combination of character, competence, and judgment with some emotional glue that goes with it to tie it together. And most of the time, the way you develop that emotional glue is by trying hard things, by training at hard things, or by approaching a defining moment, in a unit where you pull things together. And I'll stop there. We'll talk about ACC when we get there, but I'll stop here and see if there's anything you want to talk about.